I've found something in my food.
This doesn't taste right.
I think the food I ate made me sick.
Those are words that no one wants to hear in their restaurant. When it comes to imminent health risks, quick and effective action can help to minimize imminent health risks and help to ensure guest and crew member safety. Imminent health risk. It's a term you may have heard, and most likely you have a sense of its importance. But you might find yourself wondering, what exactly is an imminent health risk? First, let's clarify what's meant by imminent health risk. An imminent health risk is any situation that can result in immediate harm to a guest and/or the crew if not cured in the moment. If the risk can't be cured in the moment, the restaurant must be closed. What types of situations are considered imminent health risks? Food and beverage products that have spoiled, become contaminated, or fail to meet federal and state standards, as well as time and temperature controlled for safety foods held at improper temperatures longer than 4 hours. Pest infestation. Water issues, including no hot and cold running water, no means to sanitize, no hand wash sink, and flood. Sewage backup. An ill crew member working in the restaurant with any of the reportable illnesses described in the Employee Health and Habits course. The proper way to handle an imminent health risk depends on the situation. We'll discuss the details of how to manage specific health risk situations throughout this course. If an imminent health risk requires calling a health inspector or someone from the local regulatory authorities, or if a health inspector conducts a routine visit and identifies an imminent health risk, it is recommended that you ask to see the appropriate inspection credentials and walk with the inspector during the restaurant tour. Always be polite and professional in your dealings with the inspector, and convey that you understand the importance or urgency of the situation. If possible, correct any deficiencies identified during the visit while the inspector is still in the restaurant or prior to the return visit. After the inspection is complete, it is recommended that you request a copy of the health inspector's report. Make note of any problems or deficiencies, and ask about time frame for corrective action. If the restaurant is closed down by the health inspector, immediately contact all necessary parties, including the franchisee and Dunkin' Brands Incident and Quality Helpline, 1-800-444-1890. Now, let's look at contaminated products. Food contamination can typically occur in 2 ways. When an unwanted substance enters or is found in food product, such as biological contaminants like bacteria and viruses, chemical contaminants such as cleaning products, or physical contaminants like glass, metal, or plastic. Contamination can also occur when time and temperature controlled for safety foods are held at improper temperatures for longer than 4 hours, which can lead to bacterial growth. Management should be notified about a food contamination incident so that it can be documented and reported. If a guest indicates that they found a foreign object in their food or that the food doesn't taste right, appropriately addressing the guest's concerns can help ensure guest safety and effectively resolve the situation. Click on each image for recommended steps to follow. If immediate medical attention is required, call 911 or your local emergency response number. Always show care and concern and stress that your restaurant makes food safety a priority every day. Be polite and sympathetic, even if there is doubt about the complaint. Don't speculate as to the diagnosis or cause of the illness. Remove the product and all similar products or items in question from use on shelves or in displays. If medical attention is not required, follow franchisee procedures and gather basic information about the incident, such as guest name, address, and phone number, names of people involved and persons reporting the incident, restaurant address, description of what happened and where it happened in the restaurant, description of what medical attention was sought or received. Proper labeling of a contaminated product can help to prevent additional food safety incidents. After isolating the product and removing it from service, save the product and label it. Do not use. Document the following on the product label: incident date and time, product name and code, supplier, and manufacturing date, description of the foreign object or contaminant, such as size and color. Remember to photograph the contaminant or foreign object, whether or not a guest was involved in the incident. If a guest was involved, ask for possession of the object or request to photograph it. Before taking the photograph, place a common object, such as a penny or ruler, beside the foreign object to provide a sense of scale. Finally, call the Dunkin' Brands Incident and Quality Helpline at 1-800-444-1890 to report the incident. The franchisee's insurance carrier should be contacted, and all other franchisee-specific policies and procedures should be followed. In addition to foreign objects in food, an imminent health risk to guests can also be posed by contamination of time and temperature controlled for safety foods. Because these types of foods can support rapid growth of bacteria or viruses that can cause illness, they require strict time and temperature control. Examples of TCS foods include eggs, hash browns, meat, and dairy products such as milk, cream, whipped cream, and cream cheese. Refrigerated TCS foods must be held at 5 degrees Celsius or below, or per local regulation. Hot holding unit TCS foods must be held at 60 degrees Celsius or above, or per local regulation. Discard any TCS foods that have been held outside of the appropriate temperature zone for more than 4 hours, or that have not been documented at a safe temperature zone within the last 4 hours. The following provides an example of a conversation between a manager and a crew member to demonstrate some suggested practices for coaching.
Jack, you did a good job today when that guest told you she found a tiny piece of plastic in her food.
She wanted to make sure that we knew about it so that the same thing wouldn't happen to another guest.
You did the right thing. You treated her respectfully, made sure she was all right, and then came and told me right away. You really showed her that you cared about what happened and that you were concerned for her safety.
I was glad to help, and I wanted to let her know that we take food safety seriously every day.
Thanks again for treating the guests so respectfully. You're setting a great example for the others to follow.
Now that we've covered the adulterated and contaminated products part of the Imminent Health Risks course, take a moment to check your knowledge. There are 3 essential guidelines for pest management. Prevent pest access to or entry into the restaurant. Eliminate food, water, and shelter sources. And work only with a licensed pest management provider. Additional information about pest management can be found in the Pest Management Training module. Water. It's something that's often just taken for granted. That is, until there's too little of it due to a plumbing problem, too much of it because of a flood, it becomes contaminated and a boil water order is issued, or sewage backup occurs. In these situations, water issues can become an imminent health risk that leads to food contamination or guest illness. Knowing how to properly handle water issues can help make sure you don't get in over your head. Let's take a look at 4 types of water issues that can cause an imminent health risk in your restaurant. No hot and cold running water, a boil water order for contaminated water, flooding, and sewage backup. Sewage backup will be reviewed later in the course. We'll describe some important information about alternative water sources in this section of the course. Click on each image to learn more. One of the most serious restaurant water issues is no hot and cold running water. Running water must be available at all locations throughout the restaurant at all times. An extended interrupted supply of water means that the restaurant's water supply has been interrupted for 2 or more hours. If a potable, which means drinkable, water supply can't be obtained, the restaurant must cease operations. To remain open, you must be able to wash your hands with potable, safe water. When a boil water order is issued by the local authorities, this may mean that the safety of your water supply is questionable and that the water could be an imminent health risk to guests. A boil water order applies to water used for drinking, preparing food, beverages, ice cubes, washing and rinsing of equipment and smallwares, washing your hands. As long as the boil water order is in effect, potable water supply must be obtained or the restaurant must cease operations. To remain open, you must be able to wash your hands with potable, safe water. After the boil water order is lifted, sanitizing measures must be followed as outlined in the Cleaning and Sanitation Manual and any franchisee-specific procedures. When the Weather Service forecasts flooding, it is recommended that you monitor bulletins closely and make sure that flood control equipment such as storm drains and sump pumps are working properly. During a flooding incident, always follow local authority evacuations. If the restaurant needs to close, cease all operations and oversee evacuation of employees and guests. If time and circumstance allows, remove or elevate vital records and equipment to protect them from water damage. Complete basic restaurant closing procedures. Call the Dunkin' Brands Incident and Quality Helpline, 1-800-444-1890, to report the incident. Follow all other franchisee procedures. Alternative water sources that may be used when there is no hot and cold running water or when a boil water order has been issued include containers of commercially bottled water, water containers that have been cleaned, sanitized, and filled from an approved source such as large bulk water containers, a tank truck operated by a licensed water hauler, an on-premises water storage tank. Now that we've covered some basic information about water issues, take a moment to check your knowledge. Let's face it, in every restaurant, it's something you hope will never happen, but in reality, it can. We're talking about sewage backup, one of the worst plumbing problems imaginable. Sewage backup is an imminent health risk because sewage contains contaminants, viruses, and bacteria that can pose a serious threat to people. Sewage backup in a restaurant can impact guest safety by spreading illness and disease. If sewage backup occurs, containing the problem and quick, effective cleanup are key. If sewage backup occurs, it's important to take quick action to stop the problem, limit the spread of sewage, and prevent contamination. Click on each circle to view the recommended steps to take in order. Determine the sewage backup location. Close off the affected restaurant area. Decide if the entire restaurant needs to be closed. If restaurant needs to be closed, cease all operations. Oversee employee and guest evacuation. Post yourself or another manager at the restaurant door. Post a restaurant close sign on doors and, if applicable, drive-through menu board and window. Contact a drain cleaning service to determine the cause and to prevent future backup. The franchisee should contact the operations manager and the incident hotline. Dispose of food and food packaging that may have been exposed to sewage. Contact a professional cleaning services company to begin cleanup of the floor, walls, and any affected areas and equipment using approved cleaning procedures. To prevent further contamination and cross-contaminating equipment, send home employees with contaminated clothing to shower and change clothing. Contact the pest management provider to retreat if needed, and contact your insurance carrier. Now that we've covered some basic information about sewage backup, take a moment to check your knowledge.